Good evening, dear friends. So, we'll just finish our discussion on the prospects of polymer processing techniques in this video. Okay, so it's a continuation of the previous video, which spoke about, calendaring and the other process was die casting. So two of it we had seen. So just you know what is compounding. So I told you that we add necessary substances into the polymer to give it color, to stabilize the polymer, to make it more stable when there's fire, to make it inflammable, non-inflammable, things like that. So all these things are like contributing towards compounding. So these materials we taken and then we looked into calendaring where we rolled up the polymers into thin sheets or thick sheets or however we wanted, with designs or without designs using rollers. And then we came to die casting where we used a die or a petri dish which is usually made of plaster of Paris or cemented structure, which does not allow the polymer to stick onto it. So then we looked at a pre-polymer and then the curative agent, then heating and things like that. So we'll continue with the next two things, that is your rotational casting and film casting. So these two techniques are very important techniques, like rotational casting is mainly used for making hollow articles. So like balls and dolls are produced by rotational casting. So you have a provision in the apparatus because we're going to do it in, rotating fashion. It has to have two axes of rotation. So you need to have an apparatus which rotates in two directions. So if you look at this, there will be, two angles. So you can see that this is the first one and this is the second one. So this is able to, rotate and this is able to revolve. And so there's a rotation as well as a revolution like arrangement in the apparatus. Okay, so what we do in the case of rotational casting is we take the compounded polymeric material and along with the curative. So we take the pre-polymer and the curing agent, we mix it up together and we put it into the container, actually the container or the mold we can say. So the mold is fitted to the apparatus which can rotate it in the both the primary axis and the secondary axis. Okay, so there is a mold and with a lid on it because they're going to rotate it, so it has to be closed. So the compounded polymeric material, whether it's going to be thermoplastic or whether it's going to be a thermoset, depends on what we're going to do. So of course, you know what is a thermoset, isn't it? So thermoplastics, they on heating they can change their structure, and thermosets they do not change. So you know that like thermosets are more like sort of cross-linked polymers. So in this case, what we do, we take the polymer and the mold. So you can see here that first the charging, we're taking the compounded polymeric material in the apparatus. And then what we do is we close it, we seal it, and then we start heating the mold. So the mold is heated from the outside and it is made to rotate in both the angles. So the primary angle of rotation and the secondary angle of rotation. So this may be a rotation, this may be a revolution or something. So both these directions it is rotated. Okay. So and then what we do is once the rotation process and heating, it actually melts the compounded polymeric material. So there's going to be a thermoset formation where a curing agent does a resin-like formation. It is spread entirely throughout the mold and it is flushed with water, cooled down, and then it is demolded. That is, the molded polymeric material is being removed from the mold. Okay. So what are the things that are, made from here? You can expect like dolls, as we spoke earlier. We spoke about dolls and rain boots, then hollow balls and all those things. And liquid material, like when it is used in rotational casting, it's called as slush molding. So most of a majority of all the polymers that are used in rotational casting is basically a polyvinyl chloride like polymers. Okay, so this is your explanation with respect to your rotational casting. Okay, so we'll come into the other thing that we are going to discuss today is film casting. So thin films like like cellophane tapes, polymers that were like food wraps, for instance, in recent times that is polluting. It has been a huge pollution to the the environment. Food wraps especially, and almost all we are polluting the environment. It's almost like right from sweet wrappers and everything there's a pollution with respect we are using polymers and polluting them because most of the polymers are not degradable. And like even in our polymer chemistry paper, majority of there are 4 units on polymers, and there's only a very small 2 subunits which we talk about biodegradable polymers. So it's like a very big caution that how we use polymers. We should be very caution. Like, okay, so coming back to film casting, now the film casting technique, it is usually we usually produce polymer films. Okay, so how is this done? Okay, so here we have a setup here. So you have the apparatus. So you are having the polymer solution. It has a control valve here. So the control valve actually controls how fast the polymer solution is going to come out. So what we do is we usually solubilize the polymeric substance in a solvent, in a suitable solvent. Okay, and the solubilized polymeric solution is taken in the apparatus. So it is taken in the apparatus. So this looks like more of a sort of a burette, which can allow a controlled flow of the polymeric solution. So there's an endless belt, by which we mean that there are 2 wheels at the end and there's a belt. And the belt is actually heated. This is a heated belt which is going to revolve around. Okay, so it is going to keep revolving. The belt is going to come, and this is an endless belt, and it is going to be a hot endless belt. So what happens when a hot endless belt is rotating, and when you're going to pour a polymeric solution onto the surface of this belt, which is not going to stick to the surface of the belt, we make provisions such that the belt does not adhere to the polymer. What happens here is when the solution falls, there's a continuous thin layer of polymer that falls on the belt. So what happens is the polymeric solution, from the polymeric solution that falls on the belt, the solvent vaporizes, leaving alone only the polymer on the surface of the belt. So this happens in a very quick manner. So a thin film of the polymer is produced. So this is how we are able to, generate cellophane tapes which are very thin, like a long belt-like structure, which is like usually a cellophane tape, which is a very good example. And also we can take up, food wraps and, things like that. Okay, so another important thing, which is a lost idea of things, is like photographic films, of course, which is a lost, lost art we should be speaking of. Okay, so film casting this is how film casting happened, in the previous times. Okay, so this is all about your polymer processing techniques. Okay, so here, like in a majority, you'll be using polyethylene, like for film casting and things like that. Okay, so thank you for listening to this video, and hope it helps you for your exams. And if you have any doubts, you can get back to me. Okay, thank you so much, and take care.